Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming tonight. I'd like to call the July 22nd. I'm going to start this over. I had a microphone off. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'd like to call the July 22nd regular Des Moines City Council meeting to order. And I invite Councilmember Buxton to please lead us in pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please let the record show that all council members are present. Is there any correspondence from the public?
Yes, Mayor. The following have provided written public comment. Tony Ann Mills, we do not need more enforcement. Betsy Sproger, hiring more police officers. Randy Holmes, federal stimulus, practical application. Will Dimmitt, recommendations for federal stimulus. Elizabeth Byrne, federal stimulus funds. Sally Odegaard, concerns at Heritage Court. Azeb Abraha, kid and family programming needs. And Mayor, the following have provided written public comment about duplicate bridge at the Senior Activity Center. Linda Shallett, Beverly Reich, Brian Reagan, Pamela Hoffman, Stephen Keller, Maggie Burke, Jim Burbage, and Frank Tienzi. And Mayor, the city manager will have a few comments on duplicate bridge during his city manager report. That concludes written public comment. We have 4 individuals who signed to speak, and the first one is Del Rivera.
Okay, before we go forward with the comments from the public, just like to remind those that any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who become boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the council will be muted and removed. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, and at which time, if you go over that, I will just ask you to wrap up your remarks. And at this point, the microphone goes to Mr. Del Rivera, but he is on mute, I can see.
Thanks, Mayor. Hi, my name's Del Rivera. I am a community member, and I'm also a district administrator for District 7 Little League Baseball, which is about 23,000 kids that play baseball and softball in the South Puget Sound area. I recently rented your Underwood Park from July 10th through the 18th. I had 8 days. And I just want to tell the city staff about how wonderful the experience I had with everyone that I was in contact with at the field. Kyle did a great job of setting everything up on the fields. We used 2 fields. I understand the guys that drug the fields and did the lines were not Parks employees, but they were the facilities employees, I guess, up at the maintenance guys. Well, I gotta say, I can't say enough about those guys. They took pride in their work. They made it absolutely perfect. We had a great event. They just did a great job. I was given the keys to the fields where I was the first one there to unlock and the last one there to lock up every day. Everything went very well. On opening ceremonies on July 10th, we honored Stephen J. Underwood. It's been 20 years since his passing, and we had the police in attendance, and we had an opening ceremony which went absolutely fantastic. We had some of the council members that came down and enjoyed a little bit of the games, and a lot of the public came. The families from all over our state, 9 districts out of 13 enjoyed the tournament. They ate in our restaurants. They stayed in the hotels in the area. They visited our parks. It was fantastic. I asked the marina if I could get parking passes for the families that were visiting from across the state, our state. They were graciously given to us. I handed them out. They were used. People loved the marina. They got to enjoy the farmers market on both Saturdays. So that all went very well. Also, while I was at the park, there's a bunch of other groups of baseball and softball people that showed up to try and take over the fields without consent, I guess, from the city, without a contract or permission or paying for the fields. That was a little bit annoying, but Kyle took care of that for us. But just want to say the facility's great, the new playground's great, the staff were great. Just a pleasure to be part of this community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. And it's wonderful to hear the public's feedback on what I believe is our outstanding staff does. So glad you had a wonderful event for the family and their kids. And again, Dell, I appreciate all you do for our community. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
The next speaker is
Bill Willett.
Hi, Council and Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm just going to read the comments that I had turned in, which goes something like this. Something needs to be done about the unchecked and unmonitored, except occasionally by the Des Moines Police Department, Redondo parking lot. As part of the master plan for this area, we've heard a gate system of some type could be installed. But to be honest, the lack of focus on this portion of the city has slowly let inappropriate behavior and actions become commonplace. Families that visit this area get a dose of what's being allowed to happen around here are less likely to want to return to your beautifully renovated Redondo Pier Promenade area when completed if you don't get ahead of this problem. And those that are claiming this area as their turf or hangout area could be tougher to root out if their foothold becomes more entrenched. We understand the city's, we understand funding and city priorities can make for inaction, yet there are stopgap options available, namely contracting the lot to a third-party vendor, example, Diamond Parking. The lot as is, payment being voluntary for parking, garners the city $80,000 plus annually, not including parking passes and any ticket revenue. Likely the marina isn't given any of the ticket revenue. Enforced, this income channel could top $200,000 pay to park plus ticketing offenders before monitoring contract fees. An additional benefit to a monitored lot would control over non-payment parking lot users that loiter. The lot should have an enforceable no loitering ordinance. The Des Moines PD lot monitoring contractor can use to move non-paying visitors along. The city should also look into a no cruising ordinance effectively used in other cities to discourage cruising, which in turn enhances public safety and could help to control vehicle noise. Recently, a car sped from the stop sign at Soundview Drive South and Redondo Way South, losing control and crashing into the Redondo Beach Heights condominium gated parking area. On days when there are no parking spaces in this area, people frequently park just up the hill from where this accident happened and walk to the beach. That car could have killed someone trying to enjoy the area. Thankfully, the only damage done was a total vehicle and damage to the fence. The point here is this: you can't ignore this area and expect it won't slowly turn into a problem area for the city. Grand plans for the area will attract greater crowds, but not if there's a reputation for this area as being dangerous to frequent. Getting ahead of the problem before it becomes a bigger problem is something that we'd like to see. Create the ordinance mentioned as tools for the Des Moines Police Department and as city's leader to get this parking lot under control. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person is
Next is Laura Heister.
Laura Heister.
How is everybody? Hello, Mayor, City Council members. I own a condo at South Shores Condominium Complex, and I'm the president of the board. Sorry if you can't see me very well. we've heard that the city is moving forward with two major products on the marina floor. In fact, it's two projects to my knowledge. One is called the Marina Project, Marina Project, and the Land Project. One of our biggest concerns is the city is supporting both, but the Land Project is the one that I have the biggest concern with, is directly in front of South Shores and a few of our neighbors just south of us. It's a very large building that's directly in front of us. In fact, if you stand on our balcony and you look down, that building is going to be literally, you're going to be staring down at it. The proposed building is supposed to have a new enclosed garage for all the boats that are now housed in those buildings in front of us, which yes, is an eyesore, but it's not going to be as much of an eyesore that is going to be proposed in front of us. Right now, what you guys, the city council is proposing to do is put something that, and I can't think of the name of it, I apologize, that you have stacks of boats like Edmonds has and Tacoma has one. The Edmonds boat area, they didn't have enough money to finish theirs, so it's not enclosed. So I ask everybody to go up that's listening to this and listen to the sound of the motors that it takes to bring these boats down for the owners to come in and take their boats out. It's very loud and very obtrusive, and it's not fun to listen to. So I asked for everybody to go up to Edmonds and listen to that, because I'm very nervous that, everybody plans for a project. I don't care if you're a homeowner, a city, whatever, everybody runs out of money. So I'm very, very nervous that we're going to run out of money if this project moves forward. I hope it doesn't. I also hear that with this project that's going to be in front of South Shores and down a little bit, that it's going to house a year-round farmers market and restaurants. Supposedly it's going to be 30 feet tall, which means it's going to come just shy of our first floor condos. Then you add the HVAC, which is the air conditioning units on top of that. Well, this isn't going to be very lovely for any of the condo owners. The smells, the sounds, everything that's just going to impede our views, the noise, the smells, the rodents. What if there's a fire? If this is going to be literally directly onto our hill that comes up to our units, what if there's a fire? How are we going to get out? I mean, this is a massive concern for all of us. We have a lot of elderly people that live here, and me, anybody, it's going to be tough to evacuate. So this is a massive concern. How is the city, how the taxpayer, how are we going to pay for this? I don't know of a price tag that has been mentioned for it. I'm not sure how the city is telling everybody about this, because every single person that I have mentioned this to, there has been zero knowledge of this. I know that there's some boards down in the marina. I have, other than reading that, I've not been aware of it, other than talking to a couple other board meetings around where, South Shores.
I need you to wrap up your thoughts, please.
I'm sorry?
Your time has expired.
Okay.
I need you to wrap up your thoughts, please.
Okay, other than that, I would like to know how this is being told to the public and to the taxpayers. That's it. Oh, and good luck with everybody on their the voting.
Thank you. And the next person is
Mayor, the last person is Yvonne Kirkland.
Yvonne Kirkland. You have the microphone. You're on mute. Yvonne, are you out there? I see your connection. Oh, there you go. I think we can hear you now if you speak. No, not yet. Yvonne, are you there? Looks like you're connected, but we are unable to hear. Did she dial in? Yvonne, we're not registering any sound on your microphone. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Well, it looks like what we're going to have to do is move on. Yvonne, if you, I know you've reached out to several of us and left messages with us, and we've received email and so forth. If you want to reconnect with our city clerk, maybe we can get you back into the fold at some time. I believe the topic that you're interested in is something that will be addressed by our city manager, Michael Mathias. So unfortunately, due to whatever technical difficulty, we're going to have to move on. Okay. So this takes us forward to the city manager's report. And Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Have quite a few items on our city manager's report tonight. It's going to take a while to walk through them, but they're all of, I think, high priority to address. First thing I want to talk about is there have been a number of comments and requests regarding the Bridge Club that has in the past played at the senior center, and they're requesting access to allow that activity to occur. Just wanted to respond to that. Senior center has been undergoing improvements to the facility, new flooring, painting. That's still in the process. There's the expansion of activities right now relative to COVID is problematic, and most of the people I know in the emergency management field are concerned about a resurgence of COVID, depending on the variant that's been occurring. So it was recommended to us by the Bridge Club that what we do is just verify vaccinations and let people in. And the city, as a protocol, is not in the business of verifying vaccinations for a number of reasons. It's administratively difficult to do, and hopefully everyone is extremely honest about what they show us or where it comes from. But really what we're doing instead, and we're doing this with City Hall, is requiring people to wear masks. There's also one of our vendors that works with us, and Nicole can talk a little more about this, are not back up and running relative to food service and other things. And once again, our concern is safety and concern for our staff and concern for the seniors that would use the facility. This may be irrelevant to everyone, but for me, I have a special place in my heart. My aunt, who lived in Genoa, Italy, was a member of the Italian national bridge team. So we were never able to take bridge lightly. That's a serious subject. And I respect that, and I respect the enthusiasm of the Bridge Club. And we would be more than happy to work with you over time to find a way to accommodate the continuation of that activity. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Nicole, who's our Assistant Parks Director, Parks Rec and Senior Services, just to give us an update on where we are right now relative to summer programs and programs that are coming in the fall. Nicole?
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. So at the Parks, Recreation and Senior Services Department, we've been hard at work in planning for various programs and activities in the near future. In consultation with emergency management and with continued safety in mind, we have a lot of exciting things that are happening. Last night actually was our first concert at the beach park, sponsored by the Arts Commission, and it went really well. There will be 3 more of these Wednesday night concerts, and we also have a movie at the Beach Park Meadow that is scheduled for August 13th by our Parks Department. I will give you a brief overview of what we will be offering at the Field House in the coming months. So on the Field House lawn, we are starting outdoor dance classes for kids next week, Thursday, with Melanie's Dance Unlimited. There'll be multiple age level classes ranging from ages 3 to 14. Dog Obedience with Jan Magnuson will begin back up on August 4th, and Kids Martial Arts, as well as Enhanced Fitness for our seniors, we're looking to begin in September. And all of these registration is both on our website and linked on our Parks Facebook page. Next, youth soccer. So we've had a lot of input from community members and past soccer folks, and we're incredibly excited to have opened registration for our fall youth soccer. It'll be an 8-week season from September 11th to October 30th, and Kyle Ellers has been instrumental in this process and getting this back up and running. Next is we've had lots of discussions about before and after school care. And so we did just recently decide that we will be doing an aftercare Club Chaos to be located in the Field House. So the plan is we've partnered with Highline School District for transportation. They're going to help transport kids to the Field House for just a in-house program after school. And some other agencies will take on the before school operations in the different school sites that we used to serve. So we are excited to get that up and going. We'll probably start with about 30 kids and then look to expand as we get staffing lined up. Next is field rentals. So I know we just heard from Dell, but we were able to host the Washington District 7 Little League tournament at Stephen J. Underwood earlier this month. And like Dell had mentioned, our maintenance and park staff worked incredibly hard to ensure the fields were up to pristine condition and ready for action. We also are right now hosting the Senior Softball League at Stephen J. Underwood on Mondays and Wednesdays. And so Kyle also has been helping make sure the fields are clear and good for those guys. Let's see. So while it was difficult, as you all know, closing down kind of at a moment's notice, March of 2020, it's been an entirely different challenge restarting all of this programming. So everyone is likely familiar with the labor supply shortage, and it's definitely been a struggle to recruit employees at this time. Right now, we have job postings for the soccer ref positions, rec attendant and rec leader positions. We did bring on a past rec attendant for supporting the field house programs that I mentioned a bit ago. And we're doing our best to be creative in recruiting. We've had a lot of support from our HR department, and we're just looking to fill positions so we can expand these programs. Now on to the Senior Activity Center. So lunch service is back right now to a walk-up model Monday through Thursday outside, and we're allowing the seniors to take their lunch and sit on the outdoor patio tables to socialize and be together. As Michael touched on a bit ago, Catholic Community Services, who is our partner who does the indoor dining, they have not reinstated the congregate dining in any of the senior centers they serve at this time. So our staff is working with them just on procedures and what we need to get in place for when that will be able to happen. The new floor is complete, as well as the paint, and staff actually this week is just moving back all the office supplies and furniture back into the activity center. They do have plans up there for on August 18th. They'll be doing a lunchtime walk followed by yard games and a barbecue outside of the center. And they're also gearing up to offer some small table and card games, as well as getting the social worker back on board for scheduled appointments that should start back up in August. The area senior centers meet every month, and actually just today on the call with them, I got some kind of a status update from different centers. So a number of our South King County senior centers have yet to open in any capacity. Some have had soft reopenings, but are really limiting their numbers to 25 or less indoors. They are requiring masks and some are trying to do proof of vaccination, but both of these procedures are kind of proving to be pretty challenging with the folks attending. A number of the centers are looking to September or October larger reopenings, depending on just kind of the current trends in Department of Health. And as already mentioned, a lot of people today just discussed the staffing shortage and that it's been really challenging to get things fully back up and running. And lastly, so we will be looking probably early September to do a small scale reopening inside the activity center, both to showcase the new floor and paint, as well as kind of just honor our seniors for their patience and resilience throughout this pandemic. And we will, of course, look into figuring out how we can get Bridge up and going at some point in the future. So with all that being said, and thank you for bearing with me, we're excited for the future and we are doing all we can to reestablish all of these wonderful programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. I think it's great to hear the comments that Mr. Rivero made, because I see that in the enthusiasm of the Parks Department to get back online and provide services and programs for kids and adults. And you see their enthusiasm. As Nicole said, a lot of the difficulty comes with identifying staff everywhere across the country. There are challenges in hiring people, but I'm completely believe we have the best Parks Department, the most sincerely dedicated people, and I think it shows in all the activities Nicole has been describing. While we're still under a lot of the compliance factors related to COVID, so thank you, Nicole. Next, I'd like to have Dan Brewer talk a little about the Marina dock replacement item that's on consent.
Thanks, Michael. Good evening, Council. Earlier this week, Bonnie sent you an amended council packet for item number 4 on consent relative to the Marina dock replacements for M&N dock. As Scott and I were talking earlier this week, we noticed that we had made an error in the council packet, and I wanted to just walk through that with you to make sure everybody's clear on what's being asked of you tonight. The error was that we needed to include a second motion directing administration to bring back a budget amendment accounting for these expenditures. And so, Bonnie, do you happen to have the PDFs that you could pull up on the screen? Maybe she's not there. So in the packet.
He's looking, Dan.
Okay. In the packet that was sent out, this first attachment, no, actually that's the second one, Bonnie. There we go. So this slide here shows the adopted CIP project for Marina dock replacement. This is what's currently in the budget. And on the second page here, you can, actually here you can see that we had estimated to spend $200,000 in design for this year and about $1.4 million in construction in an out year. This was a planning document that was adopted carried forward from several years ago. So as we got through negotiations with our consultant and increased the project to include multiple docks with this project, we needed to change the capital program. So on the next slide, and this is what both of these are what Bonnie sent out earlier this week. You can see here that for 2021, we're increasing the estimated expenditures for the design this year. And also we'll have some other design money on the same project next year. This is kind of the split of the design funding. So the motion tonight is to approve the design contract. It's around $600,000 for the design work and the permitting work. And in addition to including that design, what we wanted to do is to show you where we believe we will have funding to construct the dock improvements in a few years. So we think that we're going to issue bonds for those dock improvements. We have current debt in the marina that we will pay off in early next year. And that will free up some debt capacity that we have in our current operating budget to pay for additional bonding. That's how we, right now, how we think we're going to fund the construction of the improvements. We wanted to show that to you in this document. We're not asking you to amend the capital budget or approve the bonding tonight. It's just so that you could see how we eventually plan to pay for the improvements. So for tonight, it's just approval of the design and directing us to bring back a budget amendment to increase the expenditure in 2021 from 200,000 to 250,000, as we've shown here. Should have done a better job explaining that in the financial impact section of the packet. So anyway, just wanted to explain that. So hopefully that clears that up.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that analysis. I want to talk briefly about item number 2 on consent, which is an extension of a contract with Elaine Long with Coaching Action, and just give you a little of the background of that. Basically, we hired Elaine. She came to us recommended from corporate clients to start working with Des Moines. And at the time, if you recall, as we were doing a transition in our culture, a lot of things had happened that, were not, I think, the direction that now we've gone or that we intended to go. And so originally, Elaine worked with staff from the perspective of, how can you best adapt to the culture that we're building here? And so we signed a contract with her for, I think, $50,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that was 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years. And through the course of those 4 years, Elaine has met with many of our senior staff and many of the people, especially who make presentations to City Council. And over, I've heard from council, both new and older council members, that many times they greatly appreciate the quality of the presentations that are given to them. And that is absolutely a function of Elaine's involvement. The other thing is that, these days, as we said, it's not only hard to find people to work here, it's difficult to keep people working here. So Elaine plays a role in retention by providing people opportunities to grow, get better at what they do. It serves as a career development tool. It's about communication internally within City Hall and externally. I think it helps transparency. I think it helps our community when we have people that can speak with them intelligently and directly. And the same with council. And I can't be more pleased with the quality of staff we have or the quality of what we present to council every time we have a council meeting. And so with that, what happened was Elaine exhausted the $50,000 that I was able to sign for. And so now what we're recommending is that council approve us extending that contract to $100,000, which is really just an increase of 50, but will continue to allow Elaine to work with our staff. It's available to council members. A few of you have taken advantage of that opportunity. And she's just great and helpful. And everyone who's had the experience of working with her has had a positive experience, which is pretty extraordinary. So I just wanted to mention that relative to item 2. Let me move on. There was a, sorry, trying to keep track of it. There were, we had a very serious heat event, as you all know. And I don't know that everything we did was perfect, but it was certainly a lot. And so I just thought we maybe, you know, from behind the scenes, council may appreciate the efforts that we made to address that. The dates were Friday, June 25th through Tuesday, June 29th. And at one point on Monday, temperatures exceeded approximately 110 degrees. We had our emergency preparedness manager, Shannon Kirschberg. She attended all the excessive heat seminars conducted by the Seattle Health Office and King County Emergency Coordination folks. All weather updates were forwarded to directors following each meeting. Weather warnings and heat advisories created and shared with all departments for social media publication. On Tuesday, June 22nd, we called a large number of local churches in Des Moines to find if any were planning to open cooling stations. No churches had plans as of Tuesday, and this was before the heat wave. During calls to churches, Shannon gave her contact information, asked to be contacted if churches decided to open cooling centers. Scott Wilkins, at our request, went to Lowe's on Friday and purchased 25 cases of bottled water. Lowe's, when they heard the reason for this, which is to give out in the community, given the temperature event, donated an additional 25 cases. So we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 bottles of bottled water. What we did with the bottled water was we then put some in each police car, so they would have them available as they were going through the neighborhoods in the city. And we also gave some, Ken Rogers was kind enough at the quarterdeck to accept the number of amount of bottled water that he was able to hand out. We produced a list of cooling centers in our area, not just local, and sent that to the police department as a reference. On Sunday morning, Shannon and Bonnie started calling around to find out how we could establish a cooling station. The activity center, we're looking at improving the air conditioning, but that was not a viable option at that time. Shannon called Highline College, spoke with Francesca up there. Bonnie called Highline Schools, left a voicemail for Scott Logan. We established the cooling center at Highline College through Shannon's efforts on Sunday morning for Monday and Tuesday. Okay. On Monday, we had staff who, redirected their activities, went up to the Highline College Student Union and manned the cooling station. And we had 45 people come the first day, and the second day, and that staff was Shannon, Rochelle, and Nicole. We're all there on Monday. Shannon was primarily there on Tuesday. We had one person at that point. Let's see. I think I'm just going to call it at that. But I think that shows you the degree of effort and attention and focus that went into making our community safe. And we also, of course, coordinate everything with our police department of South King Fire and Rescue. Okay, thank you. Shannon, did I miss anything? I don't think so. Okay. So now this is the most fun part of the meeting as far as I'm concerned. I want to talk with you all about ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act. So give you a little background. I've read some critiques of, the fact that we don't have a dedicated economic development person in the city. And I just want to remind people that originally I was hired as the assistant city manager to focus on economic development, which I've done. At the point at which Mr. Piasecki left, I applied for the city manager position with the thought and hope that we would be able to structure the organization in such a way that I could continue to focus on economic development, which I've done. Let me give you a little of my background, just as a reminder. I was an assistant vice president, Bank of America, corporate, both strategic planning, government relations. I have a master's from Cambridge University in economics. At Cambridge, I was a member of the Marshall Economic Society, which was about 30 people. And every 2 weeks, we had a Nobel laureate fly in, and we got to spend time both in lecture and talking with them one-on-one. I had the opportunity at that time to have one-on-one conversations with Nobel laureates Vasily Leontiev, Amartya Sen, and others. I then went to UC Santa Cruz and got a master's in applied economics, which is mathematical economics, regressions, and a lot of formula-based economics. I then went to Oxford, got a degree in sustainable urban development. I created a redevelopment agency in Florida, which will be helpful for us now as the state legislature has created the opportunity for tax increment financing. And it may well be that that's a resource available to us in Des Moines for development. In Fort Lauderdale, I was the economic development manager, city of 160,000. And I worked as an economic development director in another city in Florida. So I just wanted to provide that background. Now, going back to the CARES money that created the GROW program. So September of 2020, I gave a presentation to the Economic Development Committee on the CARES money. And we were recommending taking about over $500,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, for a grant program to local businesses. And the focus that I had at that time from the education I have and what made sense economically was to focus on what's called aggregate demand. And aggregate demand enhances salaries and wages and creates economic activity. I remember Councilmember Martinelli was kind enough to make some suggestions about how that money could best be applied. And I think, you know, the issue with the model in SQUIM that you had recommended was, for whatever reason, they chose not to make that money available for wages and salary. And so I thought the fastest way we get money into the economy was to allow for those types of expenses. But at any rate, after that discussion, we went forward and initiated the GROWS program. And I acted pretty much under the emergency proclamation authority established from the state that the city council had approved. Okay, now we're in a slightly different situation. So the ARPA money has resulted in us receiving approximately, or we will receive approximately $9,040,000 over 2 years. And it will be, we can expend it up until December 31st of 2024. Tonight, what we're doing, and this is the staff recommendation, the plan is tomorrow we will send all of the council a link where you can fill out an application or applications, whatever you want, to recommend programs you'd like funded. And then we will compile those and walk through everything at the budget retreat August 5th. So you will receive that tomorrow. Tonight, I wanted to show you what our recommendations are and what the thinking behind them was, so you have some understanding what we think, you know, we could accomplish, and then we're looking forward to ideas that all of you may have. So with that, Bonnie, would you put up our spreadsheet? And this is going on our website and out in public as we speak. So there's two sources of the revenue. Okay, one is that it's replacing lost revenue. So we can go back and say, this is what we received as a city in 2019, and whatever gap in 2020 existed, that can justify ARPA money. At the same time, if you can't justify up to the 9 million, you can be consistent with the federal guidelines that, believe me, it's 681 pages of legislation. And eventually we had the Treasury Department, the US Treasury Department issued the circular of guidance for the program. So it's either going to come from revenue loss or consistency with the purpose of the ARPA money. It doesn't really matter. We've already received our first check for 4.5 million. We've not spent any of it. That's something council can make motions and approve as we go forward at the budget retreat. But let me just show you briefly what we have in mind. The amount column is the total, and then there's some distribution of funds over 2021 through 2024. We are anticipating, we recommend buying like an evidence van for the police department. We can take the body cam costs and have those associated with ARPA. We're looking at buying additional police vehicles, and the goal being we'd like to get to a vehicle per officer. And then we're also recommending the acquisition. Beth Ann, we don't have the numbers in here, but I think 4 officers. And the reason for that, there's 4 patrols. We have several officers on light duty, which is unfortunate that they were hurt and they're recovering. And we also have a number of paternity leave requests from officers. So this will shore up each patrol. And we believe we can pay for this, or council can approve the payment of this through 2024. Future councils, if you want it structural, and we make the distinction, sorry, the LT is limited term, the S is structural. Structural means it's an ongoing cost. Limited term, one-time purchase. Then what we're looking at is taking mental health support with our police program. And what this is that, as you all know, we got Ken and Rochelle and everyone worked on acquiring a grant for South King police agencies, South King County police agencies, to have a social worker team with officers to go out to calls in the neighborhoods. And what we are trying to do, and I had some very interesting discussions with both Representative Orwell and Senator Kaiser, what we're trying to do is make sure that the social workers have resources they can refer clients to, people involved. And so we've met with CMAR. We're going to meet with some of the other nonprofits to see, what services they could offer. There's a program like this in Denver, and this is starting throughout the country, but it's new. A program in Denver called the STAR program, where they had social workers go out with cops. They hit something like 230 incidents where that happened through the course of the year, and they had 0 arrests. So somehow that combination in the right situation can de-escalate violence and de-escalate criminal activity or problems. And so we want to emulate that. At the same time, we'd like to expand healthcare availability for our community. So working with, we've talked with CHI Franciscan, recently joined with Virginia Mason, and we'll talk with others. That nothing's set in ink yet. But the idea is to expand healthcare availability, both through the senior center, for indigents, for people that are low income, whoever needs help. If there's a way that this can help and we can decentralize access to healthcare, I think that would be a really positive for our community. We've had a significant loss of revenue in the Parks Department because we haven't been able to charge any revenue, costs for programs since we weren't offering programs. So that's $934,000 that would help make parks, whole. The municipal court lost about $600,000 in fees. So we're going to replace that, and they can use the money to continue and enhance their virtual efforts. And you'll see that at the budget retreat. They'll talk more about what they're doing. SCORE has been challenged because there's been less activity in terms of crime. And let me just say, not so much that crime has gone down, but that the use of SCORE has gone down. And so they've lost money that needs to be kind of recouped. And so one opportunity is for us to use some of this. We see the EATS program continuing through 2021 and 2022. And these are all council calls in the end. We're looking also at doing small business loans. And the nature of this is to work with Bank of America and do a program where we give out loans, let's say in the neighborhood of $50,000. maybe give out like 12 of them or 14 or so. And go through a review process. We'd have Rich Shockey from the Small Business Development Center at Highland College be a part of this, and others, and work with the bank. And it doesn't have to be Bank of America, but they do a lot in small business. And the idea is that they would be 3-year loans for say $50,000 if the business paid back the first portion, like let's just say they survived for year 1, they would be forgiven 30% of the loan. If they survive year 2, they're forgiven 60% of the loan. And if they survive year 3, the loan has become a grant and they're not have to pay it back. So there's some motivation there to continue in business and to be successful. We thought we'd look at continuing the GROWS grants for people that say they were not aware of them or want to apply for them. We're looking at Metro. We need to partner with Metro to continue the community shuttle with the hope at some point of having that be a fixed schedule route. So that'd be $250,000 over the next few years. We looked at tenant evictions resources, approximately $300,000. We'd work with the nonprofit to help with any tenant eviction issues here. Emergency transitional housing, the new state law that's going to require municipalities to make transitional and affordable housing available. I think one thing that we've held the line on this, and I give a lot of credit to the mayor for always pushing this, is that we provide comprehensive services. So we talked with CMAR, for example. They may be interested in building the affordable housing. We could use a portion of this money to help provide the services that are needed to make the transitional housing, successful. Food trucks also, we're looking at ways to enhance food trucks. Those are some costs that could be associated with helping to incentivize that and define the opportunities. We put down $2 million for marina infrastructure and $100,000 for SR3, the Marine Mammal Rescue, and tenant restrooms on the marina floor for $400,000. Bonnie, is that it? Oh, and then there's finance, I think, had budget publishing software, which will make it easier for everybody. And we can do some of this electronically. So the preliminary total of what we came up with was $9 million. And as I said, nothing's set in stone. Council can do this any way you want, if you all agree, or at least 4 of you. And we'll pick this up at the budget retreat. And tomorrow we will send you the application format that you can then fill out. And that, fortunately, concludes my city manager report. Thank you.
Michael, Councilmember Bangs and JC Harris had a couple of questions. Are you open to taking questions at this
Sure,
time?
that's fine.
I recognize Councilmember Bangs, then Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. So just for a point of clarification, are you saying those forms that we are to fill out if we have programs we're interested in funding are new programs or currently established programs? That's my first question.
Okay, well, the answer to that is that what we will send out is there's federal criteria for what qualifies. So you can look at the program you're interested in and see if it fits the criteria and then recommend it. And I wouldn't be hesitant to recommend new things or existing things. We can look at that and we will review these carefully so that they're consistent with the federal guidelines.
And then my second one is you're sending out that spreadsheet so we can review it, or you're going to provide that?
No, we'll be happy to send that. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. So 2 things, hopefully quick. Going back to your previous discussion, is there any general agreement as to why it's been so difficult to recruit people to resume some of these services?
Well, yeah, okay. I think the issue with labor supply right now, and it's an issue that is troubling to everyone associated with anything to do with employment, and which is not receiving the national attention one would think it might justify receiving. But primarily, I think what's going on is that the federal government in the last 18 months has floated a tremendous amount of money. And a number of people, for better or for worse, as they were laid off, as they went on unemployment, got not only basic unemployment, but subsidized at a higher rate. And so that threw a kind of a bounce. I mean, I heard the other day, if you go to work for Burger King, you can get $1,000 startup, money, and then you can make $19,000 a year. So that then has a ripple through the economy as to what the cost of everything is. And that's really the best answer I can give you.
Okay, so there's just a lot of competition now for, the other question I had is, will you be providing sort of a rule book? I'm struck by the idea that this is basically for shorter term kind of projects as opposed to, infrastructure. So, can you provide some guidance as to what is appropriate to suggest versus not?
Yeah, absolutely. We will send you the federal guidelines with this. And I think the infrastructure is an interesting point. So I want to mention one thing with that. Infrastructure is a legitimate expenditure, assuming it's going to be one time and hopefully it gets done by the end of, you've allocated the funds by the end of December 2024. The other thing is there's almost $5 trillion currently being considered both for physical and social infrastructure in the Senate right now. And so some of that money may come to us in different forms through our congressmen or senators or whatever. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
It's just, it's just sort of an interesting thing. You're almost gambling in that if you decided, okay, I want to spend $1 million on infrastructure, and then this other bill actually passes 3 months from now, and it's like, oops, I could have taken that money and used it for, the short-term thing.
That's the nature of government, man. Got to make those decisions and hope they're right.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Dan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Michael, do you want to address the idea of, as the council members kind of think about projects that they would want to consider, the idea of the total? We know the total is fixed at just over 9 million. And the idea of recommending something new would be also recommending something to take off of the list. So that at the end of the day,
yeah,
it has to balance.
So we did, Dan, thank you. So this is very important for council to know. So as we went through this, and I can't tell you how many hours Beth Ann and I and others have spent trying to sort out where we are, right? Is that as we have been constructing the budget, and you'll see the recommended budget August 5th as well, the way that we've structured this has taken into account what the 2022 budget will be. And that, so, but there's no lock on that. Council can do whatever you want. However, that if, depending on what you end up with, we'll have to make sure that that's consistent with how the budget is constructed. So we started out with that. I think Dan's point is, I don't know that council has to, you have to find out, okay, well, if we do this, we won't do that. That's kind of our job, and we'll present that after we know what your interests are. But yeah, that's a very, it's important consideration that the two things have to go together. Anything else, anyone?
I see Tracy's hand. Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Harris, I'll give you your second shot after Councilmember Buxton.
So I'm not looking at the spreadsheet anymore, but I just wanted to clarify everything that was LT or long-term was pretty much structural.
No, everything that was LT is limited term.
Limited term. Okay. So some of those were staff positions or possibly indirectly staff positions. Let's say you make a commitment to another agency for $100,000 a year for 2 years. And it needs to be clear to them that whatever they spend it on, if they hire staff, they may not have that in the 3rd year. But that,
Yeah, but I mean, Tracy, thank you. But the thing about it is that typically the larger nonprofits have foundations. And trust me, we talked about exactly, we met with CMAR, we met with CHI Franciscan, we met with others. We've absolutely made that point. That
Okay.
you will, if you want to continue this, you want to pick it up. And we don't want to give you so much that it becomes an issue for you to survive with the money after it ends.
well, and I think I'm making the point a little bit about us too. So that in a few years from now, anything that has a limited term on it, we need to understand that either if we want to keep that item, that we're going to have to find that money somewhere in in 3 years.
Yeah, so I think I might not look at it like that.
Okay.
Because the limited term tend to be one-time purchases, one-time investments. We really only have the police officers and the parks program support that's structural in
Okay.
this whole list. And, so, I mean, you can see for yourself when you get the spreadsheet.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. I kind of know I'm asking for trouble here, but this is a very large amount of money, and I'm wondering if you perceive any difficulties in managing just all this stuff. It's just like all of a sudden you've got like this, it's Christmas in July. So, I mean, is there something that has to be thought of in terms of just more staff or more? I mean, you've only got so many people and so many hours in the day. And so,
yeah, I think that's actually a fair comment. And so, yes, but for me, it kind of goes full circle because when I started, we were going bankrupt.
yeah.
Now we've got $9 million in the bank and we get to actually choose what to do with it. So I will take the second situation and work with it.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Dan Brewer had a comment.
Yeah, just I want to make sure something real clear. I think Michael mentioned it earlier that Beth Ann has set up a specific fund, I believe, for these dollars. So they're not mingled in the general fund. They have to be accounted for in a particular way, and they won't get mixed in with the general fund budget. So it's got a specific, ARPA allocation of the funds that the council will choose, and it's not tied directly to the general fund. Is that, Beth Ann, is that right?
That's correct. I'll have to bring an agenda item to you too. I've already opened the fund, but I'll need to have your permission to include that in our funds. But because it is federal money and it's so large, also, if we earn interest on it, we'll have to track the program income. That interest income, I think, can be used or it'd have to be repaid to the feds, but that will be coming back. And then as we go into our new system next year, we'll be creating a project to track everything. So we are planning for that.
And so, Beth Ann, I think in the interest of transparency, there will be a separate fund for this money, and then there will be line items for each of these projects. So we always know at any given moment where we are relative to expenditures and receipts and all of that.
Right. So if something's spent out of the general fund, we'll have a transfer over specifically to document what it's paying for. So.
Yeah, thanks. Anything else, anyone? Thank you for your patience. We look forward to talking with you more about this, and we'll send out the information to you tomorrow. Thank you. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Michael. This is a lot of great information, and I want to thank you, but I also want to thank all the staff that put the effort in behind this, because it's a lot. And that's why I also have the faith that you'll be able to manage it. You've got a top-notch team. So with that, I would ask if the city clerk will please read the consent calendar.
Item 1, police body worn cameras program funding. Item 2, contract amendment and extension with Coaching Action. Item 3, Human Services Advisory Committee appointments. Item 4, Des Moines Marina replacement of M&N Docks consultant contract. Item 5, draft resolution number 21-033, setting a date for public hearing for vacation of public rights of way for South 219th Street, South 220th Street, South 221st Street, South 224th Street, and 30th Avenue South to Sound Transit for the Federal Way Link extension. Item 6, approval of vouchers. Item 7, Arts Commission appointment. And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? I see Councilmember Nutting and Councilmember Bangs. Okay. Council, before I go forward, I want to address one of the items on the calendar before I ask if anybody has anything to pull. I'm not going to pull this item, but I wanted to share just an interesting situation, but something that is very much to our good fortune. So item number 3 is the Human Services Advisory Appointments, Committee appointments. And there were 2 spots open at this point, and we had 3 applicants. I have to say, that's not always the case, but not only is that not always the case, we don't always have the extreme qualifications that we have here. These were very strong candidates. I'd like to point out the reason why I brought 2 of the applicants forward, because they have actual experience in human services related issues that this committee has to deal with, not only in education, but in working with the agencies and, for example, in terms of caseworking, child abuse and neglect, mandatory reporting, mental health services, and we have the other candidate actually has worked for Cascade Women's worked with Cascade Women's Transitional Housing, has a degree actually in a Bachelor of Arts in Human Services and Associate of Applied Science in Chemical Dependency. And our other applicant, the one that I did not bring forward, again, very strong applicant, but not with this kind of experience. There was this person has a law degree and is currently a teacher. But, you know, I just have to say that I am flattered for the city of Des Moines. I am humbled, but we have 2 excellent candidates that understand how human services works, understands the agencies. And I think, you know, that's part of the role of this committee. So I brought forward the 2 best applicants that I felt could serve the city through these appointments. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. With that, I want to ask, is there any council member that wishes to pull an item? And I see Councilmember Bang's hand. You are on mute.
I'm going to defer to you because I want to let you know that I have a question for number 1 and then a comment for item 2, 3, and 7. I don't necessarily have to pull them, but where would you prefer I make my comment and provide my question?
I think I'll entertain it right now.
Oh, okay. So number 1, police body worn camera program funding. I have a question for the chief related.
Councilmember Banks, I need to pause you for a second. I've made a mistake.
All right.
We have we have a motion, and I've called for anybody to remove items. Before you make comments on them, let me see if anybody has anything to remove.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to you. I'm sorry. Does anyone have anything to remove? I think I see J.C. Harris's hand is
Yes.
getting
Thank you,
pixelated.
Mayor. I would like to pull item 1.
Okay, you'd like to pull out item 1.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have a comment on item 2.
Okay, so at this point, we will be, right now, the voting block is on items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And item number 1 has been removed. So at this point, if there are comments to be made about the consent agenda, because I agreed with Councilmember Bangs that I would go ahead and allow that, I believe Councilmember Bangs, you wanted to make a comment, and then Councilmember Buxton, you said you had a comment as well. So I'll go ahead and entertain those right now.
Okay. So since Councilmember Harris pulled 1, I will wait until that one is discussed. For item 2, I would say that the contract amendment and extension for coaching action, I have participated and taken advantage of that counseling. And I will say, actually, I won't say counseling, coaching. It was very helpful. I've been through a lot of them, as you are well aware, in my life working. And I felt that it was very helpful. And it also helped some of us council members work through and talk about issues or items. So I really appreciated the work that was provided with that. And I wholly support that. And I would recommend anyone, council members or other staff or new staff, to take advantage of that coaching service. Human Services Advisory Committee, I read through those applications and I totally agree with you, Mayor. I was very impressed with the qualifications and their, wanting to provide support for that committee. And then number 7, I would like to say Mei-Ling Sproger is online. Hello, Mei-Ling. That I am really pleased to see that we now have her on this agenda for, consent, because she has been showing up at our Arts Commission meetings and she has been providing input, very good input, as a matter of fact. And I think the group at this particular point just basically thinks she's part of the committee anyway. So I want to thank her and I want to thank you for bringing that forward. And that concludes my remarks for this.
Okay, I will go to Councilmember Buxton. Just point of clarification before you start. Councilmember Nutting, did I see your hand or no? Okay, no, okay. Just wanted to be clear. Councilmember, I do see Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Okay. Councilmember Nutting, I'm sorry, Buxton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2, I wrestled with that a little bit, but I also received benefit from that coaching experience. And she is fabulous and actually consults with some of the most prominent people in our region, professionals in our region. And so you get what you pay for. And I also did a little bit of market research. And so I think that she does a great service to our city, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo a little bit, particularly the decision on the coaching action. It is worth it to make an investment in our staff, and I highly recommend those council members that haven't gone through this training should do so. It's been great, very beneficial. I agree with you on the Human Services Advisory Committee choices. These 2 particular individuals have years of experience. I'm not sure we even have these level of qualifications on the existing committee, not that they don't do a great job, but I'm impressed with them. And then to go a little bit off, I'm really glad to see we're starting the process of the docks. The replacement there. That's important for the marina. It shows our efforts there, and I'm grateful. And of course, thrilled to have Mei-Ling. She's been getting active and engaged in the community, and it's a great thing to see her plugging herself in. So I just want to say thank you, Mei Ling, for the efforts you're giving this community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So at this point, I will take us forward. Since everybody else has made a comment, I'm going to make a brief one, and it really ties to the coaching in action. This firm, I've had the opportunity to work with this firm both here at the city and outside of the city. I know of their work and who they have worked with, and they've worked with some of the most prominent CEOs and senior level executives throughout the region. One of the things I think that is really important for us to consider as well is that, you know, when you try to grow people from the inside and they take a job and they go from a level 1 to a level 2, that's something, because they're advancing their skill set, they're acquiring certifications. The challenge is when you go into leadership roles, manager, director, and above, that takes not only a skill set, but a technical skill set, but it also takes a certain amount of soft skills. And that is what this organization focuses on. So I just want to say that, you know, again, through experience, this is an excellent expenditure of our funds, and it is a way, it is a way to retain employees. It is a way to attract employees, because we are investing in them and their success. So with that, I will ask all those in favor of the consent calendar, with the exception of item 1, please raise your hand. Okay, I see Deputy Mayor Mahoney, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Martinelli, and myself. The consent passes 7-0. Okay, at this point, we are now talking about police sworn body camera funding, and I am going to go to Councilmember Harris, who pulled the item.
Thank you. I basically just have a couple of questions. First of all, according to the packet, it says that the data will be held for a minimum of 180 days. Is there a specific time limit to that? You know, do you have is there a specific policy that we will hold data and then dispose of it after X number of days, months, years?
So that will be managed by the city clerk and the state retention schedule. So that's really what that follows. Nothing different or deviates from that.
I'm not saying, I'm just asking what that number is. If it's like, you know, is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? I mean, if we don't know, we don't know, but I'm just asking what that.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to bring in the city clerk.
Councilmember Harris, all records have a disposition of certain time limit. It depends on the record, depends on what it's being used for. If we have a case that maybe needs the body camera documentation for a longer period of time, then we might have to keep it for longer than what its retention period is. So everything that we have has different, depending on the situation and the type of document, on how long we have to keep it. Some are forever, some are a limited term, some are 3 years, 6 years. It really just depends. Washington State Archivist has a local collection of common records. It's called the Core. Spells it all out. We use that as our Bible. We go through it, figure out what the document is, figure out where the retention is. If we have to have the archivist look at it, if it's non-archival, I don't know off the top of my head what the word is, but basically we use that as our guide. And again, police records are dispositioned the same way, but we do have a lot of cases that do need us to keep records for longer than what the typical, disposition might be at that particular moment. I hope that helps.
Yeah, okay. So the other thing is, I read the, basically, is this the final policy as to when the officer can turn the camera on and off?
I wouldn't say it's the final policy. I know that the city and the Des Moines Police Guild are about to enter into negotiations, and I have had conversations with our HR director. I can tell you I have had some preliminary discussions with our Des Moines Police Guild president and vice president. And so there has been some preliminary talk, but it's still it's a mandatory subject of bargaining with the Des Moines Police Guild. I can tell you the policy that we presented in the packet and that we're using as kind of a model placeholder is consistent with agencies throughout the country who use the Lexipol policy program, and it is policy consistent with best practices throughout the country for body-worn cameras.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. Let's
Councilmember Bangs.
So for the chief on page 33 of our packet, there is a 430.9 referring to the coordinator. Chief of police or the authorized designee should appoint a coordinator responsible for RCW 10.109.010. Are you able to appoint external coordinator, or is this simply internal to the department?
Well, to answer your question specifically, I think I probably could go external. However, I don't think it would make a lot of sense to go likely, and I've spoken with the city clerk about this, likely it would be a representative from the city clerk's office who would at least become, if they're not already, once we get this program, very well versed on the legal aspects of when and what type of recordings could be released to the public and which would violate privacy issues. So I believe it makes most sense to have a representative from the city clerk's office manage that type of privacy type issues.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'll read the motion. I'm sorry. Oh, I see. I did not. Councilmember Nutting, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, Mayor, I was just going to make the motion, but
Go
if
ahead.
you'd like
Go
to read
ahead.
it.
I'll yield to you.
Okay. First motion is to approve agreement with WatchGuard for the purchase of equipment and software necessary for the police body worn camera program, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement substantially in the form as attached.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Councilmember Bangs. We've already had the discussion. Is there any further? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. I see Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. All those opposed? I see opposed. One opposition is Councilmember Harris. Passes 6-1. Back to you, Councilmember Nutting.
I move to direct administration to include sufficient funds for the purchase of and maintenance of equipment and software for the police body worn camera program in the city budget for a period of 5 years.
Second.
Motion was again made by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Councilmember Bangs. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. till I call your name. Okay, it's going down the same line. Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. Opposed? Opposed is Councilmember Harris. Okay, this also passes 6-1. And that completes our disposition of our consent calendar. Okay, and this takes us forward to new business. And the first item is the recording of city meetings, and we have a presentation by our city manager, Michael Mathias.
Thank you, Mayor. As you recall, I think at the end of June, 3 council members requested that we review the issue of recording council committee meetings and that they be, available. And so what we've been able to do in the time since then, currently with Zoom, it's not difficult to show council meetings online. People can see them and so forth. As we've had committee meetings, it's been much easier for those to be placed online, and we are directing that happen as a result of this discussion, so that all prior committee meetings that we have recordings of, we will put up online for people to review. As we return to more normal activities, where the council chambers are set up for us to record and provide to the public, the committee meeting rooms are not. And so we're going to continue to look at how we could best accomplish that. And we will report back to council as we go forward with the idea of, trying to enhance the availability of those meetings for everyone. Mayor, take any questions. Worked with our city attorney on this and city clerk.
I see Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Harris, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, is it going, if this is possible, is it going to be part of the ongoing process, not only for committee meetings, but also for city council meetings, that the public be able to attend via Zoom? Would that be, kind of a combo platter?
I don't know that we looked exactly at Zoom as the specific tool, but there are tools, be it on Channel 21 or on, I think we could link it to live streaming. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want us to look at that, if council wants us to look at that as well, we'd be happy to do that.
But you would consider that a separate issue that we should look at?
Councilmember, you know what? The fact of the matter is, I don't think there's a distinction. I think it's all about providing access to what the council is, considering and voting on and the comments and all of that. So I don't see them as separate. They may be separate technologically to accomplish. But
no, I just want to know what your understanding of, we're talking about the committee meetings, but it's occurred to me that going forward, it would be good if the public did not have to actually schlep to City Hall to make, to make public comment if they wanted to participate. Yeah. So would that be something that we should address separately? Or is that?
Well, I'll defer to our city clerk, but I'm not sure that they're currently schlepping because they're available technologically in different venues. But Bonnie, any comments?
Well, we haven't really looked at any programs once we go back live. Right now, we're doing it via Zoom, so if they want to make a comment.
You don't have public comment activities, that would be another issue to talk about, but as far as recording equipment,
We have to look into that when we go back live. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm just wondering when we go back to live full council meetings, if the Zoom capability will still be in place. I guess that's my question. Or will it be turned off?
We haven't gotten that far. I mean, this is
all right. Fair enough.
Came to us, and so now we have to go research and find out what the best options are for in person as well as if this is the best option for, virtual.
Thank you.
We'll bring
Bring
back
back whatever we find.
Councilmember Bangs, your hand was up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it makes perfect sense if we take a look at what exactly is going to be happening. If we do, just like what goes on now with our council meetings on Zoom, how many people really, request to come on to watch or to speak. I think the same thing is going to be important with these committee meetings as well. How many people really will be involved? I know, as long as I've been involved in committee meetings, I can think of maybe 3 citizens who have attended. And of course, there's no asking questions during committee meetings, but they've attended. And that was really about it, the maximum.
And I believe Councilmember Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. So since we're going to be doing it with the Zoom meetings now are going to be, those that are recorded are going to be posted, means that we don't really have an opposition to it conceptually. I guess it's more, it's a cost consideration. And so when I did the math down below where it talks about how much it would cost for data storage, it turns out to be about it would be about $2,000 a year extra to store the data. But there isn't a projection about how much it would cost for startup costs for the equipment, and then this ongoing staff time for monitoring all of that. So I would like to recommend that we revisit this maybe Q1 2022, or after or shortly before we think that we're going to be done and we're going to start meeting in person, to check our click data, because I think it was mentioned that the staff would be monitoring who visits these committee meetings that are going to be posted here shortly. And since $2,000 really a year is kind of nominal, depending, it's not nominal. A startup cost plus that plus ongoing staff time. If only a few people click on those videos, then I just can't see the justification. But if you've got a very sizable amount of people visiting these videos every week, well, then it's a little bit different consideration. It might be worth seeing what the actual cost would be. That's my recommendation.
I see a lot of value in letting the staff do a little bit further work. This is a little bit broader scope. YouTube, if you're watching on the internet, you can get click information, but there are a lot of people that just watch it off their TV set as well. So I think we're asking a bigger question, and I think, I don't know, we could handle it as 2 issues, or we just keep going with it, figuring out if there's equipment changes here or upgrades or additions. I think right now I think the city manager was clear. Our city clerk and communications director is trying to look at what we're going to, what the best way is to do this, as well as trying to figure out, I know it's not just Bonnie at this point, but I know the whole team is trying to figure out when and how, what does opening City Hall in terms of council meetings look like going forward? We just don't have that answer yet. I don't know when we'll get it, but at this time we don't have it. So with that, is there an introduction of items for future consideration? I see Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. So obviously, recently, all over town, we hear comments about the loud mufflers and so forth on the cars breaking the peace of our town. This is a regional problem. It's a nationwide problem and a trend. Well, we can pass ordinance on and enforce it through decimal meters and things like that. But the problem is there's actually loopholes in Washington state law and at the federal level. A lot of people don't know this, but they can buy and have aftermarket mufflers installed on their vehicles in Washington state, whereas Idaho, they can't. So I had a conversation with Tina Orwell about this a little bit, about what the Washington state law is. She gave me some facts and so forth. And then also, a lot of people don't know this, but vehicles manufactured at the national level and even international level actually have modifications installed where they can actually flip switches and increase the decibels with these muffler effects built into the vehicle, which supersedes a lot of the ordinances that are local and at the state level. This is my position and my idea, is I think we should write a letter to our state and federal legislators and also the surrounding towns to solicit their support in having them relook at legislation to stop the sales of these types of vehicles and stop the sales and installation of these types of car parts, as just to help everybody with the fact that it does break the sense of peace. It wakes us up in the night. We're having places like Redondo or any of our streets where we live at, we're being affected by it on a regular basis now. And it's a trend that's one of the only ways I think we can get it to stop. We can't police it to death. And there's an expectation that we do. So it's a greater thing that has to happen. It's like airport issues. We can do so much at the local level. We need the state and federal levels and county to help us. So my proposal is we get staff to help us write a letter. I forwarded the information to Michael that Tina provided, and maybe possibly we could have some kind of letter that could be sent to those entities with that intent. So that's my new business proposal.
I would second that proposal. We need a third, but I'm just saying that I like the idea. I think it, and I think we got the third with Tracy and the fourth with, well, I get, okay, I'm seeing 6 hands so far. So I think there is support for this letter. The good news is, but I think Michael actually wants to talk about it. So let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Mahoney talked with me about this. What I would just recommend, I mean, it's fine. I think doing a letter would be, great, but I would recommend that we actually go a little further with it and incorporate it into our legislative program for 2022 and come up with the strategy and come up with, do we have partners? Who else wants to join into this effort? I'm sure Kent would want to, not put words in their mouth, but I think they probably would. And do it like that. So it's much more of a comprehensive approach than just simply a kind of a letter out of the blue.
Exactly. I would, I'll let.
Go ahead, Councilor Mahoney, and then I'll go to Councilmember Harris.
All right. Sorry, Councilmember Harris. I agree with that. I would lobby the skateboard as well. Being their chair, I should be able to get something on the legislative agenda as well.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with this. I just know because my company actually worked for a firm that makes these aftermarket parts. And the people, that's why I supported the street racing, increasing the fine. These people are extremely passionate, and it probably will take legislation, and there will be lobbying on the other side in favor of that kind of equipment, people. So yeah, it's absolutely a good thing to, lobby to on our side as aggressively as the people who sell this stuff do. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we have provided direction. So I will, and I am happy to sign that letter. So Michael, you have the direction you need to move forward with that. That's not really an agenda item. It's just something the council.
That's fine. I just want to restate though that a letter would be part of a larger strategy. So we just want to make sure the letter doesn't just come of its own, but that there's more occurring with that. If my understanding is okay with that, then we'll go forward.
I think you've got it.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none, this will go forward to board and committee reports and council member comments. And tonight we start with council member Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. So, hey, I would like to say a big welcome to Corinne and Mary to the Human Services Advisory Commission. Good job. Very impressive resumes. And it's been said already, but welcome to Mei Ling as well. Excited to have you aboard, Mei Ling. Just wanted to give a little brief update on the farmers market. They're getting about 2,000 people visiting the market down there per week, and different from the intense COVID time last year. Outside, no masks, and dogs are allowed now. So I think people were getting used to the fact that their dogs couldn't come along with them inside the market. So come on down. It's a fun morning. And then today I attended an interesting workshop. It was called Building a Foundation for Racial Equity. PSRC combined their boards into a workshop today. And I just want to say there is a lot of talk, many agencies working heavily on national and regional conversations, and many of them that we have not had before. And I'm hoping that in regard to racial equity in our nation, in our corporations, that good work and action is going to come from these discussions. There was a lot of good discussion today. There were 70 people on that, all regional leaders from around King County, the 4-county region actually today. So I appreciated that. That's all I have for tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we go to Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to say that I think it's great that we passed the body camera proposal. At this point, it was, I think, a little over a year ago that we first started discussing it in the Public Safety Committee. It's been a long process, but it's exciting to see it actually moving forward now. In regards to the stimulus funding, the report that was given by the city manager, I think that I'm really excited to see some really forward-thinking and progressive things on that list, such as the tenant eviction resources and the money for emergency transitional housing. There's a couple of things I would like to see done slightly different. For example, I would like the small business loan program to just be another extension or a second round of just straight business grants, not loans. And I would really prefer those to be done through an independent third party. I know we mentioned Bank of America for the loans, which would be potentially a third party. So if we did the grant program, picked a different venue for that third party, I think that would be good. Other than that, I just want to also congratulate the new members of the Human Services Committee and the Mei Ling for the Arts Commission. And those are all the comments I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we go to Councilmember Bangs.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Police Department Advisory Committee July 17th. We were provided a virtual tour of the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Center in Burien, hosted by Director Monica Alexander, along with her leadership team. Let me just say it was very comprehensive and almost overwhelming as it related to information. Some of the examples of what they provided was the fact that training has now gone from 4 weeks to 10 weeks for the training of officers. There's an applied skill training, which, maximizing control with minimal injuries, distance shielding, de-escalation, threat ID and management, on and on. I mean, it was just wonderful. I think the most exciting thing that I heard was that there's a new program called the ABLE program. It is an advanced bystandership for law enforcement, which the program requires bystander officers to intervene when they see excessive force and to report wrongdoing. So the training emphasizes that intervening is an act of loyalty to the colleague involved, to the officer's agency, as well as to the community. So there's a lot of advanced training also for, first line supervisors, mid-level supervisors. Here's exciting news too. All Washington State Police officers are certified through WSCJT, but this also includes, oh gosh, I can't even think of the name. community safety enforcement, as well as those that work in the, help me, chief, work in the, you know, as officers in like federal penitentiaries here or elsewhere. So I think it's exciting, but please go to the website, cjtc.wa.gov, because the information is really extensive, but very, very informational. And who knew? Because all, you know, majority of those on the committee did not know. And it's really important to know because there is a lot of training going on. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just trying to get my thoughts and notes in order here. I'll start out with congratulations to the Human Services Advisory Committee applicants that were approved. And Mei Ling, I've seen you about at the farmer's market and with your camera taking pictures, and it's congratulations on getting approved for the Arts Commission. National Night Out will be held this year. There's actually going to be some events. Tuesday, August 3rd, I, along with my wife Yvonne, will be up at Midway Park. In coordination with Reach Out Des Moines, we have come up with a CDC approved way to provide food for the event for the local community. So I'm very excited to be up at that park. I love that park. We've extended it, and it'll be good to be out with those people. Then I want to expand on Nicole's presentation. Last night I attended the first concert in the park of the 4 that we're going to have this year, and it was Ian Ayres and the Sole Purpose. And what a great night to have some reggae-ish, ska-ish music going on with a beautiful night. The next 3 that will be held are July 28th, August 4th, and August 11th, 7 p.m. And they're free in the beach park. And it was in coordination with the Arts Commission, Des Moines Art Commission, and Washington Scuba Alliance. So very excited for that. Again, movie in the park August 13th at dusk, and the movie's going to be Scooby-Doo. And last but not least, there's a couple working for the city that are celebrating a very exciting 38th anniversary tomorrow, Scott and Bonnie. And so I want to congratulate you, 38 years. Congratulations. And that concludes my remarks, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. And that takes us forward to Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe you might have skipped Councilmember Harris.
Did I? My apologies, Councilmember Harris. I'm terribly sorry. I'm going down a list, checking things off, and my mistake.
No, I thought you were changing it up, man. So, yeah, thank you, Mayor. So yeah, my phone has like 6 messages like, man, why did you vote against the body cameras? I have no problem with the body cameras, okay? At the risk of sounding like the crank in the room all the time, I did not hear specifics on a data retention policy, and I did not hear specifics on the policy for activating and deactivating, and I will never vote for anything without that kind of specifics, especially something like the body cameras. And this is just a discipline issue with me. We're not a small town anymore. And, you know, I want us to vote on this stuff after we work it out with the guild, okay? And after we have a number on data retention. That's just how I think this should work. And let's see here. I was very appreciative of the city manager commenting on the challenges with the cooling center. It strikes me how much we're still, not still, we are a volunteer, driven city. And we depend on other organizations for all kinds of stuff, and which is great. It's just, I'm just thinking about how much we need our organizations and the public to step up to this kind of stuff. Let's see here. Speaking of which, I attended the Redondo, one of the condominiums has had some candidate forums. They stepped up. That was great. The questioning was great. And all the people who wrote in about the bridge. Okay, that just always makes me feel great when the public participates here. And and finally, so this sounds like whatever, I don't say it enough. Infrastructure is near and dear to my heart. And we had a couple of meetings today, environment and transportation. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the staff and the fact that they're getting to work on these projects over the next year. It's not exciting stuff, but just the idea that you're, looking out for the city 50 years down the road for the next generation of people. It's just, I wish you could get more people excited about it, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what, I wanted to, why I wanted to get involved with this stuff. So I wanted to thank them, and that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm sorry, I'll go to Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to talk about the Little League tournament. If you have not been to Stephen J. Underwood Park, it is fantastic and it's beautiful. The soon-to-be Veterans Memorial, as well as with honoring Stephen J. Underwood, will be an incredible thing. One particular thing in the play equipment, the sun screening above it and also the foul ball protection, it served quite a few purposes. I appeared at watched the Little League, and there was a lot of people that actually, because it was hot sunny days, had gone under cover, and it worked well. But I could tell you, everybody was talking about, why doesn't our city have something like this in its community? So to Michael and the staff, thank you. That was, you hit it out of the park. No pun intended there. The next thing is on July 17th, we had the CPUP patrol. And SR3, the police, there's a couple of you I'd like to thank first, and then I'll tell you about how successful it was. So SR3, our Des Moines Police Department, Sheila Brush, Doreen Harper, the Farmers Market, our sponsors, John L. Scott, the Quarter Deck, Edward Jones, and Rotary of Des Moines and Normandy Park. We raised over $5,000. Casey was blown away. And what the great thing is about 150 plus stuffed animals went to our police department. And these are going to go to children in distress. It was a double win, and it was amazing to see the community output. So I want to thank the community as well. I had a skateboard meeting on Tuesday. We basically heard more about the sound transit adjustments, not to the light rail extension and construction that affects us, but how they're going to try to fund it and what they're stretching out, and what the COVID-related impacts were. Also, I attended the Highline Forum on Wednesday. There was a discussion. Highline College gave a presentation. Noise monitor updates were presented. Federal policy updates and a START update. It was a pretty traditional meeting, but there was some interesting things on the uptick of traffic, which I think we all hear on a regular basis now. Of course, Councilmember Harris covered the transportation piece. And I'm going to apologize to our public, but something needs to be said. So Councilmember Harris on his blog, which I found quite unrealistic and untruthful, and it was posted to a private page on Facebook by Councilmember Martinelli, actually alleged this city, myself, and many businesses in the community of colluding. Essentially what it was doing is, it was a pay-for-play type of allegation. That what would happen is, They would get the grants as they were handpicked, which I don't understand because all 26 applicants got it. And that I somehow assisted them. And then what happened was they would give me a campaign contribution. I assure the public, this is absolutely untrue. There's no fact or basis to it. It's a ridiculous statement. In fact, the only impropriety that ever occurred in this program, and you can cite an email on August 27th, where the city manager, Michael Mathias, has to basically reprimand Councilmember Harris because he was getting overly involved in a couple applications. I don't want to talk about this, but I have to. I can't believe that this occurred. And I want to assure the public that this is the problem that we're dealing with. Now, you may want people to look the other way, condone this type of activity. Well, that won't be me. If people act this way, I will do my research, I will find out the answers, and I will bring the truth to the forefront. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and the SR3 event was already covered on the 17th. I just want to say, I want to thank our police officers and the community. It was a great event. I think people were outside. It was such an active event. I think people were outside longer than some expected to be. So I saw some people running around with sunscreen trying to help people prevent the negative impacts of long exposure. I want to say, though, that the Saturday market continues to draw well. I don't have the exact numbers right now, but it's somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 people plus in a 4-hour period. I believe Tracy Buxton may have an exact. Do you have the exact number from last week? You said 20. Can you turn your mic on so I can hear the right number?
Just over two.
Okay, so but it's great, and I mean if you want to understand what it's like to live in a community, this is a great place to come out and do it. We did have the after the Transportation Committee, we did have the Environment Committee tonight, and the staff covered essentially what's called our Surface Water Management, or SWIM, CIP Capital Improvement Project Plan, from looking at 2022 to 2027. It's a 6-year plan, and I got to tell you, there is nothing glamorous about this. Much of it is in replacing pipes and making system adjustments to handle stormwater. Well, last year during the COVID situation, they handled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the South 251st stormwater outfalls, 216th and 11th Avenue. I'm sorry, there was pipes being replaced. Marine View Drive and 200th, they made some modifications there in partnership with the city of SeaTac when that intersection was replaced to help address flooding and collection a little bit to the west of there. And we now have a way, as we move forward with our road improvements, to tap into that. On 251st, the outfall was replaced due to failing pipe. We had a Woodmont landslide, and there was much repair and slope to stabilize, and they took care of that. Currently, they have in operation, I mean, a huge list, but 6th Avenue and 239th, there's been an ongoing situation there for quite some time where the pipe has been failing and it's affected some stairs and access to the beach there. That's being addressed. Soundview Drive and Redondo Beach, pipe upgrade, 10th Avenue. I can go on. A lot of these, are pipe and drain issues. One in particular, let's see if I've got the right. We've partnered with Lake Haven through our franchise agreements. It shows that those things are working at 8th Avenue between 264th and 265th. They're doing some infrastructure work while we're also doing some work there. There was one location, and I'm not Tyler Beakley. He did a great job presenting this, but what I have to say is that there's even a place where we have, I believe it's McSorley Creek, that at times fills beyond capacity and floods out people's yards. So they're putting in a creek diversion when it reaches a certain point, so high flow volumes can be handled through an additional channel. Excellent work by the team. It's not glamorous when you're talking surface water management, but they did a great job. I will say, with the current construction, as with some work that's, our bulkhead work that's to start on the marina floor, we still are running into material delays. And when you ask why, well, there were many plants that were shut down and so forth, and due to COVID, and now that things are starting to open up a bit, there's a huge demand. Everybody has heard about the worker shortage issue. So I just wanted to, this is a more elaborate description of what I would normally put out from the committee, but it was covering the CIP over the next 6 years. I felt it was worth the time. And the next issue I wanted to talk about, I hope Scott Wilkins is still online to help me out with this one. Scotty, are you there? There you are. Okay, so Scotty,
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm just gonna give the floor to you because I don't think I can, this is one that's really in my wheelhouse.
I appreciate this. Every year I like to surprise Bonnie or embarrass her a little bit. So tomorrow's our 38th anniversary, wedding anniversary, and I just want to say happy anniversary.
And I think virtual flowers are in line because one of the things that people have to also understand if they've not seen it in the past is Scott always brings in flowers to celebrate these events, especially if they fall close to a council meeting. So anyway, happy 30th wedding anniversary to Bonnie and Scott. You guys are assets to the city and you really help to keep things going well here. So again, congratulations to both of you. Oh, is that true, Scott? Bonnie says she was only 5 when you got married.
Yeah, pretty close, but thank you. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, that takes us to the end of our meeting tonight. Our next meeting will be our budget retreat on August 5th, 2021. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I see Councilmember Nutting. Do I have a second? I see Deputy Mayor Mahoney. All those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. Okay, Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Banks, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Nutting, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming tonight. We are adjourned.